ready? Ready to roll? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're showing 9 o'clock. We'll call the March 7th McLeod County Board meeting to order. And I'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll begin today with our consideration of agenda items. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to today's agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Entertain a motion to approve today's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
And a second. Darrell Scott.
Motion from Commissioner Kruger, second from Schmaltz to approve today's agenda. Is there any discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Nagel, second by Kruger to approve today's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up will be our jail, Will Feltman, jail captain.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have two items today. Number one is going to be seeking approval to continue the sprinkler head replacement in the jail. Approve a contract with Summit Fire Protection from St. Cloud to replace 23 sprinkler heads for the jail for the price of $12,655. We had a few issues a few years back with some sprinkler heads, identified a better alternative, so we're slowly phasing out the old ones with these new ones that are more tamper resistant. There's no such thing as tamper proof, obviously, but these should prevent, hopefully, some further issues down the road. Been working with Spencer Bauer and doing this over phases. It is budgeted for this year.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to add that this investment should be looked at as a return on investment, hopefully, because the expenses that we've incurred in the past with the previous model being tampered with. So, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I do understand, what the request is for, and with that understanding, I will move approval of the request.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmalz, second by Luthens to approve a contract with Summit Fire Protection for installation at the cost of $12,655. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The second item I have is the annual renewal of the jail's food service contract. The original effective date of this contract was April 16, 2008. This approval would be to reflect a change of, it's an increase of $41.90 per day or 20 cents per meal. That is a 13.5% increase for 2023. Because it is a larger increase, I reached out to some surrounding counties, kind of asked around. This is normal. There's other counties anywhere between 10 and 20%. There was a neighboring county that signed a contract last fall for an 8% increase, and now their food vendor came back at another 17% for this year. And a little back history too. So the jail provides the space and all the tools to provide the meals. The Summit Food Service would provide the labor and the actual food itself. We've had a contract, like it says, since 2008. They're reliable. Snow days, they make alternatives. They provide it. They're great to work with. It's no headache. Saves me headaches. So I do recommend approval for this.
Okay.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Schmalz to consider approving Amendment 14 to the Food Service Partnership Agreement with Summit Food Service, reflecting a rate change to $352.26 per day, rate change of $1.71 per meal. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair and Will and the audience, I think with the realization of what food costs today, we're all aware of that. Really, the increase did not surprise me. So, and if you're getting good service from the vendor you're with, I think I can support the request the way it's been presented.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, this is just covered for 23 though, huh? You couldn't do any,
Correct, they just want to do a year by year, yes.
you answered all my questions. I think we're fortunate too. Everything else I deal with, 13.5%. I mean, it sounds like a lot in normal years, but the way things are going today, I think I thank you for reaching out and double checking, but fine with me as well.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Okay, next up will be Environmental Services. Mark.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
One item for your consideration this morning, it is a request from Jeff Nygaard for a one-lot preliminary plat, 23-01, to be known as Nygaard Lot for the purpose of a building eligibility. The lot size is 2.22 acres. It's approximately 215.15 by 450.08. It is located in the northeast quarter of Section 14 Hutchinson Township. This property is zoned agricultural and the existing land use is tillable acreage. Transportation would come off of Major Avenue, County Road 4. Soil borings performed indicate that a standard septic system can be installed for the primary and secondary site. The National Wetland Inventory Map does not indicate the presence of wetlands. Due to the applicant not being present and not being able to be located, there is no indication if Hutchinson Township recommended approval. I do have the application this morning as a change to that statement. Hutch Township did recommend approval for this request, and they heard that request on February 9th. The Planning Commission heard this request at its February 22nd, 2023 meeting and unanimously recommended denial as it does not meet the zoning ordinance requirement of being small and irregular shaped nor hard to farm due to the applicant creating the hardship. With that being said, Section 7 of the zoning ordinance states that higher development density on difficult to farm sites can be considered if it meets the criteria of small and irregular shaped, physical isolation from other farm fields by roads, steep hills, ditches, or similar features. Wooded is defined herein, and the ordinance states that a parcel, if it is 30% wooded, it's classified as wooded, or if it contains steep slopes, wetlands, or other environmentally sensitive features. So that is the criteria that the Planning Commission looks at in regard to making a recommendation for this request. The Planning Commission did unanimously recommend denial of this request to send it to you, but there were 2 members that were absent from that meeting. So we did have a quorum, but 2 members were absent just for transparency to the board. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, the board. We do have a couple members here, Jeff Nygaard, the applicant, as well as John Adamic, who is a neighbor, are here.
Mark, does the application meet the ordinance or no?
Small and irregular shaped, it doesn't state what the minimum size is, so that is really up to the board's consideration to what they determine to be small and irregular shaped. I wish I had a better answer for you. The ordinance was constructed that way because not every 2 sites are equal. So as long as I've been doing this, we have had small and irregular shaped pieces being larger than this request and smaller than this request. So I know that doesn't give you a concrete answer, Commissioner Nagel, but that's the best I can do.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, bud.
Yeah, Mark, people that know me, I always hate going against our townships. I mean, especially in unanimous votes, so, but I am open to, I'm glad there's people here. I would just like to go through that a little bit to understand. I mean, we've had ordinance issues before that we've either went up against or had to abide with, so I guess that's all I can say right now.
Just to add maybe onto that, I brought up the township recommendation. Now, we just found out today that Hutchinson Township recommended approval.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I don't want to speak for the applicant. Jeff was not present at the Planning Commission meeting. I believe there was a misunderstanding on his part that he didn't have to appear at that meeting. We
Yep.
strongly advise all applicants to appear or send a representative to our planning commission because that is the public hearing for the preliminary plat.
So when the planning commission met, they did not have an opinion from Hutchinson Township one way or the other?
That is correct. They didn't have a
Work
recommendation to
Okay.
work from.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Commissioner Luthens, are you willing to kind of go over how or Mark, I guess, how the planning commission discussion went? To Commissioner Kruger's point, it's hard to go against, or, I guess I'd just like to hear what the pulse of that meeting was.
Right. Well, we determined to deny it because of a small irregular field. Could still be good cropland and didn't want to take it out of production. It was kind of a man-made piece of property and there's trees growing on the line now. So they're going out further. That's just kind of self-made. But we did go look at the property and we did have a lot of comments from other people and came up with that decision of denying it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and just to add to that a little bit, I think part of the discussion at the planning commission level was in regards to who created the small and irregular shaped piece. This was all part of a larger field. The applicant actually sold the larger portion of the field and retained this 2.22 acre site. I want to say 2013, 2012, somewhere in that neck of the woods. The applicant could probably give us more details in regards to when he did sell that. But I do believe that was part of the consideration for the planning commission is what did the applicant create this small and irregular shaped piece? And I believe that factored into the planning commission's decision.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I also, I'd like to hear from Mr. Nygaard, if that's possible. I know people don't like to get up, but don't be nervous. I'd just like to hear what's going on. And I don't know, the building, is it gonna start a building site? Or, I mean, that would be a question for Mr. Nygaard, but
Jeff,
what is the long range? You can come on up if you would.
Mark is correct. I sold it in 2013 to John Adamic, bought the acreage. I chose John as a sole neighbor to purchase it. And it wasn't offered to anybody else but John, I guess Bob Borka, and he turned it down. So I kept the 2 acres, 2.47 acres for a future for my son or myself or a family member to build a house there, but the plans have changed. I did pass the township board meeting not once, but twice I was there. And I did all the recommendations to the county. I got everything signed and surveyed. I got a whole bunch of papers here. I can pass them around. If you'd like to
For
pass
me,
them
I'm
around.
fine. The rest of the board's up to them, but is it gonna be, I'm a little confused now. You said it's gonna be single-family home,
Yes.
basically for family? That's,
A gentleman from Washington, was from Hutchinson. He wanted to buy a lot with no trees. Well, I happen to have one I would sell him. The tree line on south is approximately 20 feet roughly. I don't know if you remember that ever, but there was a driveway there where that power line is years ago. Bonnewell told me this, that they put the telephone poles right in the middle of the driveway, and then there's a different driveway to Borka's, but them telephone poles they couldn't decide where to put them. They put them right in the middle of the driveway. So then they built a new driveway. That's how the line was misrepresented to Heidi, I believe, when she bought the place. So there is a strip of woods there. How many feet would you say, Mark?
So the neighbor that he's referring to, it's the original building site. This particular lot lies right on a quarter section line. So you're allowed one non-farm dwelling. Non-farm is less than 40 acres in size. You're given one non-farm dwelling permitted eligibility per quarter section. So just south of this particular lot, you're in a separate quarter section, and that neighbor was the original farm or original building site for that quarter section. And the trees that are growing up in there, they were, you know, I venture to guess, you know, they're fairly mature trees. I don't know how long, if it's 50, 70, 80, 100 years old, but they do create a canopy that covers, and I did the calculation this morning, it covers about 20 to 22% of this particular lot. So in theory, does it meet the 30% requirement? I would say no, but that is not a surveyed, you know, square footage for percentage. We are getting close. And one of the statements that I will read out of the ordinance, section 7, criteria number 3, one of the reasons why, when this ordinance was created back in 1981 and discussion about higher density development, the county had concerns about preserving ag land per the comp plan. And they wanted to make sure that the land that was being considered for additional building eligibilities met a criteria so that we could save and preserve as much ag land, prime ag land as possible. This particular site, and stating that, not speaking for or against, the created difficulties because of the shadow lines for the field would have been there regardless because of that building site to the south. So, and that's where I think Mr. Nygaard was going with this. There's a corner there. There is, like I said before, about 22% of this lot that has canopy. And is it prime farmland? The soils indicate that, but there are other factors that may not support that because of that shadow that gets created because of those trees, especially at the south angle of the sun.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And Mark, the thought process that I'm into right now with the application is that we have some new information that's been presented now since the Planning and Zoning Commission made their decision. Would it be wise for us to, or is there a reason that we can or can't put it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for reconsideration, being new information has been presented both from the township and the applicant as well?
Yeah, very good point, Commissioner Smalls, and that is an option that you have. There was discussion at the Planning Commission meeting about potentially tabling this request until full board was there at the Planning Commission level, and getting back to the applicant and having the applicant appear at that meeting as well. So that is a definite option you have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Nygaard, does that cause a hardship? I mean, right now, with prices going the way they are, I mean, what's your intention? Would an extension to this pose you a hardship? Or, I mean, are your plans basically out there?
I have a purchase order, you know, from on the land, and he's a retired guy from Washington, and he thought it was all, you know, but yeah, what if you want to?
I personally, I'm just gonna throw it out there, I'm okay with it, with the answers. I worry about precedents to a point. But what I've heard today, I try to encourage growth, and it seems to meet my criteria.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess I'm gonna thank Commissioner Schmalz for bringing that up, because I think with the information that we have and that we've learned, specifically the township and some other things, some questions that were raised right today too, for some more definitive answers for the board regarding the hard to farm, how that land was created, how that land was quote unquote changed and manipulated, what happened with that. And again, being the district that I represent, I think it's important for, and I hope the board will entertain this with me, for it to go back to the Planning Commission. Let them do the due diligence, let Mr. Nygaard have an opportunity to get there, right? And talk about that. So with that, I'm gonna throw a motion out there, and if it doesn't go anywhere, so be it. But I would move to send this back to the Planning Commission.
Okay. We have a vote.
And a second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Nagel and a second from Commissioner Schmaltz to send this request from Jeff Nygaard of his preliminary plat back to the Planning Commission for review.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I'm okay with that, but I'd like to see I mean, I'd like to have a date on it, so doesn't turn into a hardship. I mean, because prices are going up every day, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger, and I was actually going to ask for that clarification with our chair. So first and foremost, State Statute 1599 says we have to render a decision as a local unit of government within 60 days. We do have the administrative right to extend that for 60 days, but I just want to be clear and ask the applicant, are you willing to sign a waiver extending the timeline for an additional 60 days?
Sure.
Okay, and then our planning commission meeting, it would be going back for March 22nd at 9:30 a.m. at the Environmental Services Building, and after that date, pending a recommendation, it will come back to the board, whatever the first Tuesday board meeting is in April. If-
What date is that? I'm satisfied with that, but I'd just like to
Should be
get
on the
some.
back of our agenda. Nope, not yet, not April. Do we have an April? April 4th? Okay, at our April 4th board meeting?
Is that acceptable to Mr. Nygaard?
Is that, applicant, is that acceptable?
Sure, yes.
April 4th, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Mark, did you go to the township meeting?
I do not, no,
Usually you don't.
no.
It'll be nice to get the feedback from them.
Yeah, and we typically will get notice, so they'll give us written comment, or they'll call if there are concerns, questions in regards to what was the outcome at those meetings. If there are concerns in regards to this, we will typically get invited to come and speak, and this one was not out of the ordinary. We did not get contacted to appear, so. But I will follow up with that.
Thank you.
to both Commissioner Nagel and Schmaltz, are we just assuming that we add April 4th on your motion then?
Yep.
It's not a hearing, so don't need to state a time, just make sure that our proper date is in there. Okay, we do have a motion for April 4th. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, is that going to be a public hearing? Commission?
So we'll send this back to the Planning Commission for March 22nd. And we do have a member of the audience here that's a neighbor, and we will try to get notice back out to the neighborhood, that this is being sent back to the Planning Commission for the 22nd.
Thank you.
All right, good. Next up will be Auditor Treasurer, Connie Kurtzwig.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today I am here to discuss redetermination of benefits on multiple systems. These systems, CD 18, 19, 26, 27, 32, 38, and JD 15 McLeod Sibley. The Drainage Authority determines that the original benefits or damages do not reflect reasonable present-day land values according to Minnesota State Chapter 103E, Section 103E.351. Suggested viewers are the team of H2O, viewers, LLC, out of East Grand Forks, Minnesota, including Scott Henderson, Ken DeGeyer, Larry Murphy, along with Robert Connolly and Brian Murphy as alternative viewers. H2O viewers submitted a proposal per acre of $4.07. Full contracts were included in the board packet. What kind of questions do you have for me?
Were they able to provide a timeline with when they think that they'll be able to get started or a completion date at all?
Yes, these will be put on a 12-month cycle, so hopefully they will be completed within the 12 months.
Good.
And just for your knowledge, these will be the last redeterminations I think that we need to do for a while. There are only 2 remaining systems. That would be CD3 in Commissioner Nagel's district and CD25 in Commissioner Wright's district. Those systems are very small with a low amount of benefits.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for quite some time, so I'm glad we're finally getting there, and I'd make a motion to approve to get them determined.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I did actually submit these as separate motions simply because the contracts are separate for the county ditches and then the joint ditches. So I will need 4 separate motions. one for the approval of the redetermination, and then one to consider the appointments of the
Yep.
viewers for each of the
So-
sets.
So we currently have a motion from Commissioner Kruger to consider the approval of the redetermination of benefits on the ditches listed in the agenda.
Second.
Okay, but now we have a second.
Do you want me to read off
I'll read them, I'll review them. Motion by Kruger, second by Schmaltz to consider approval of the redetermination of benefits and damages on the following drainage systems: County Ditch number 18, 19, 26, 27, 32, and 38 as listed in the agenda. Is there any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, it's consistent with what we've done with other ditch systems, so I see no reason not to be consistent with these as well. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? We'll move ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next motion that we'd be looking for then is to consider the appointments of the names are listed in the packet, and the base rate of $4.07 per acre.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Nagel. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Luthens to consider the appointments of Scott Henderson, Ken DeGuyer, Larry Murphy, along with alternates of Robert Conley and Brian Murphy on the ditches indicated in the motion on item A. Is there any further discussion? Then we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C. Go ahead. Connie, do you want to explain that one?
This would just be a continuation for the Joint Ditch 15 McLeod Sibley. McLeod does own over 50% of this system, and those members of that drainage authority are present.
So this is just one system, Joint Ditch 15 then?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Being we're the lead, I'll make a motion to approve those as, redetermination as well.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second? I'll second that. We have a motion to consider approval of the redetermination of benefits and damages on drainage system, Joint Ditch 15 of McLeod Sibley. McLeod County takes lead. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D. Item D will be to consider the appointments. The names appear to be the same as we've already approved on the motion prior.
I'll also make that motion to approve H2O reviewers with the name stated.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, second by Luthens, to consider the same viewers as appointed on the prior motion for the base rate of $4.07 per acre. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you, Connie. Public Works, Andrew. And we're firing up the screens, I see.
All right. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here for you to consider the approval of the County Road 74 and County Road 84 turnback agreements with Bergen Township at a cost of $591,000 with funds from the highway construction budget. So I'll give you a little background on this and details on the agreements here. So back in 2008, McLeod County and Bergen Township entered into an agreement to turn County Road 84 over to Bergen Township. That agreement is set to expire on April 30th of 2023. So for the last year, Public Works staff in Bergen Township and Commissioner Schmaltz have been working to replace this agreement. And in this replaced agreement, we are including the turnback of County Road 74. So County Road 74 is about 6.3 miles in Bergen Township. So under this agreement, Bergen Township will take over County Road 84. McLeod County will continue to maintain Bridge 43507 and then until its replacement. The county will lead the bridge replacement like we do with most township bridge projects. We will secure all the necessary funds, and then we will reimburse the township for the funds not covered by the state or federal funding. In addition to that, the county will pay $424,000 to Bergen Township for future construction and maintenance of County Road 74. And this is to cover re-graveling, tree removal, centerline drain tile, all that stuff to bring it up into satisfactory condition for the township to take it over. County Road 84 is 4.14 miles long. Of that, there's 1.58 miles that is paved. So under this agreement, the county will continue to perform all the maintenance and construction on the paved portion, the 1.58 miles, and the maintenance on Bridge 43552. In return, the township will annually pay the county 1.58 miles of their annual town road money that they receive from the Highway User Distribution Fund, Transportation Distribution Fund. In addition, there was I believe it was $150,000 set aside back in 2008 for future maintenance of County Road 84. So the township will pay the county back 38% of that, which comes out to about $57,000, plus 38% of the interest on those funds from that agreement. The remaining 2.56 miles of gravel will become full township. They will maintain it. So the county will pay the township $167,000 towards future construction, maintenance, and gravel of that portion of the road, as well as the township will then retain the $93,000 plus the 62% interest from that 2008 agreement. Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
This makes a lot of sense to everybody, I think. Would you agree, Andrew?
Yep.
Commissioner Smalls? I mean, it's the district you represent. It just seems like a lot of common sense and a lot of work went into it to put it together. So I'll allow, since it's the district he represents, I'll allow Commissioner Smalls to make the motion if he chooses, but I think it's a win-win for everybody. So
Mr.
thank you
Chair?
for all the work.
Yep. Go ahead, Doug.
Before you make the motion, I see there's one representative of the township here, and I mean, I know there was a lot of work in there. I'm almost exhausted trying to follow along, but I would like to hear from the township just to double check, because I did have some feedback since our last meeting, so I'm a little unclear on a couple of things. Is the town board satisfied with this agreement, or do you have anything to say? And I'd like to hear from Commissioner Smalls when you're through.
Well, in our meetings, we did a lot of discussion, and I guess in the very first meetings we had, I got the impression from Mike Young that with the statute Minnesota has, that it's legal for the state to turn roads to the county, and the county can do that to the townships. And we had a lot of disagreement with not disagreement, but a lot of discussion with the residents on 84, and with that expiring in April. And the condition of the road last year was complaints on that, and well, then the bridge got into the mix on 74, and kind of being it was done in 2008 on Babcock Avenue. It is a good deal for the county and the township getting the bridge done, but there's always some legal things that come in on 84 with that bridge. If the county was to take that back, the way Mike Young and John Brunkhorst explained it to us, is that the county would have to pay back some dollars for that bridge, being it wasn't 30 years old yet, only 15. So, and what would that have come to be? I don't know, maybe half of that, whatever it cost to put up. And being the 74 bridge is deficient over the Buffalo Creek, it's a timber bridge yet. You know, it's a liability to the county more. But I guess getting into the meetings, I said this at our last 2 weeks ago workshop, was I had the feeling from the start this wasn't going to go well for the township. We were going to gain this length of road, and so we do the best we can on making an agreement between both parties and to keep our residents, I can say, happy on 84, but then 74 is in the mix as well. Well, you can drive them today. Snow was plowed off yesterday, but pretty much last night they were a plowed field on some areas, and it's that way everywhere. But yeah, as it comes out, this is forever for the township, but it's workable with the improvements we plan on doing to those miles. This should be good for a long time, and it's quite an investment for the county to take on, and also for the township. But the issue we had as a township board was to not take on the asphalt part of the road. And that all three of us agreed on, but then there's that legality of the bridge on that. And then they came up with the all maintenance, which we did question what is all maintenance. And John said it's all maintenance. And then I brought up striping, asphalt, signs, and he says, yes, all maintenance. And the other attorney assistant, he said, it's leave it that broad. It'd be better for everyone in case anything is challenged in the future. But yeah, in the beginning, we had a lot of pushback on 74, but what do? Take on the whole asphalt length too? And so we made this agreement where we can go with. And do we feel really good about it? Not really, because there always is some people with the negativity that we should be doing it, and those that live on the road said, yeah, do it because we're tired of it. And so I think it's a win. So, and we will be gaining more gas tax funds from the state, so that's a plus. But hopefully we don't have many springs like this one is starting out to be.
In total transparency, and the calls that I got, and I know there's been a lot of work here, and I was a little surprised because I thought everything was really going smoothly, and I think it probably still is, but the calls that I got, and one was from a town board member that they felt that they had to take this agreement, and that's what bothered me a little bit. I mean, I was hoping it would be, like you mentioned, a win-win. I mean, you know, if everybody isn't fully happy or fully sad, it's a success. So so I'm a little bit, I just wanted to make sure, but I think you cleared it up for me. You feel it's a good contract.
And historically, Virgin Township has pretty much been really 50-50 for or against pretty much any issues we have. It's always one meeting, the yes people are there, and the next meeting it gets pushed back. It bounces back and forth with anything, town hall or graders, or it's a struggle, and I didn't think it would be that tough when I got on the board, honestly speaking.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
And Commissioner Nagel, I'll try to address this from the perspective of a District 1 Commissioner and also McLeod County. We did work pretty hard to get to this point today. I think we probably met 4 or 5 times, Harlan,
Yes.
with the Virgin Board, with our attorneys present, and Public Works. I will agree with Harlan. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I myself have reservations about it, but I think being that we've taken our time with this, we've tried to be fully transparent all along the way. We could continue the discussion when we thought, you know, the numbers didn't line up to get to this point today. So with saying that, I think it shouldn't be a surprise to the board. It's not a surprise to the township on what we're proposing. If people feel that the county is using force, I don't feel that way at all, because I think we've been very accommodating to the requests that Bergen Township has made. And the real win, like Supervisor Matthews stated, is the citizens of Bergen Township and the citizens of McLeod County when it comes to putting this new bridge in on County Road 74. It'll open the door up for township bridge funds to be used, which I can't imagine how much money it would cost the county if we could not pursue town bridge funds. Maybe if you still want further explanation, maybe Andrew can go there with that a little bit. But for me, I think we put enough work into it. I think we've had basically two sets of attorneys' eyes dealing with this now with the transition of attorney. We've had Public Works. I don't know what more to say to promote the project as it's presented today.
Mr. Chair, just like to clear it up, Commissioner Smalls, I agree with you, but I just wanted, maybe I didn't say it right, that the presumption of choice, it wasn't that they were using force, but that the calls were conveyed to me that they didn't have any other choice to do it. The numbers do line up. I looked at the numbers. It really, to get the bridge in, and it's a wise and good method, lack of a better word, to use up the available funds.
But it is a lot of investment, but I think it is for the betterment of the McLeod County as a whole. In your group, we get a bridge for $20,000 instead of $250,000, $300,000 with the funds we're using, according to what John's figures were at the time last summer. But
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. You do a good job. I worked with you on several different things through the township, so I'm satisfied with what I'm hearing.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
And then early in the discussions, I mean, the ask may have been to improve the road before Bergen takes it over. And it became apparent that maybe the best way to approach this was cash. And then we put Bergen Township in control of the improvements that they want to make to these roads on their timeline. So that's why we're seeing cash versus, let's say, us doing the tiling, us doing the graveling, us doing the tree removal on those gravel roads. So I hope that clarifies things with people if they're still questioning what we're really paying for here.
I can add a little bit here. So as far as next steps here with this whole process, so the county board will act on this agreement today. At a future meeting, Bergen Township will act on the agreement. And once the agreement is fully in place, then I'll bring back another resolution to revoke the county road mileage off of County Road 74.
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
And then I'll ask this question of the county attorney's office. Ryan, you've had a chance to review the proposal. Do you have any concerns from what you're seeing with the proposal?
I don't. I mean, I think it's a product of a fair amount of negotiation. I know, and I would just note that the township did have legal representation throughout this as well, so I just, that should be noteworthy, and some of those comments or, concerns were taken into consideration and I think addressed in this final project, or final product, so, no, it's been through our office, so I don't have anything else to add there.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
With that explanation from county attorney, with the discussion we held with Bergen Township and Supervisor Matthews' appearance today, I will move that we approve the County Road 74 and the County Road 84 turnback agreements as presented with Bergen Township at a cost of $591,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schmalz, a second from Commissioner Kruger to approve the County Road 74 and 84 turnback agreements with Bergen Township at a cost of $591,000 with funds coming from the highway construction budget. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
For that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Harlan.
Second item I have on the agenda today is for a review of the Glencoe Area Transportation Services Project, an update, and consider approving the following bids listed in the agenda and board packet for the GATS construction project at a total cost of $1,413,126 from the COVID county relief budget and the designated for the capital and asset budget. So a little update here. I'll have Michael Donhay with Rice Companies come up here for any questions you may have. So a little backtracking back earlier this summer, county hired Rice Companies to be the designers and construction managers of this GATS project. We went through the design process, many iterations, got the building footprint set, everything, specs drawn up, plans drawn up. On February 10th, we opened bids. We had 49 bid categories. Some of these categories we did not receive any bids on, and some of the categories we had, or some of the bids were non-responsive. So what is a non-responsive bid? It basically means it's incomplete bid. So it's either missing some submittal documents that were outlined, or the documents were completed. So Rice Companies, myself, and Ryan and Steve with the attorney's office sat down and went through all these bid documents to determine which were incomplete and non-responsive and which ones we could award. So what do we do with the bids that were non-responsive? So we award to the next lowest bidder, and if there wasn't a bidder, then we'll solicit quotes. We will solicit quotes from those bidders who were non-responsive, as well as reach out to other entities to see what we can get for the best price. So a little cost update here on where we're at with the project. So the bids that we're looking to award today total $1,413,126. Those unawarded categories where we're expecting quotes, we kind of got about $108,000 budget that's kind of where we're sitting, where we think we'll be sitting with those dollars. When those quotes come in, we'll bring those forward as well if the board chooses to move forward with the project. Rice Companies, their general conditions and the construction management fees are about $216,000 estimated based off of the agreement that we signed with Rice earlier this summer. Plugging in about a 5% contingency, we're looking at a total cost, construction cost of $1.825 million. When we bid the project, we bid it with a gravel parking lot from Armstrong, or not, is that no, it's from County Road 3 to into the building, into the south entrance of the building. So we bid that as a bituminous pavement, or a gravel pavement, I'm sorry, with an alternate bid for bituminous pavement. And that alternate bid came in at $21,427. The reason to put a bituminous parking lot in there is it just saves on maintenance in the building, on cleaning the shop floor, saves on wear and tear of the floor itself with gravel and grit being ground into the concrete floor.
Adam, or Andrew, can I just comment on that while we're going along here, rather than come back to it? You did talk to me about that, and I had looked at it before. I mean, it's in my district, so it's kind of a no-brainer to have, I mean, with water running across and having gravel, this MS4 thing around the city, it's just, plus the benefits to us with clean floors and whatever, it's I hate to use the word neighborly, but it'll keep us out of a bunch of things with dragging gravel out onto the highway.
Is that 21 included in the 8 point?
It is not included in the 8 point,
Or 1.8?
the 1.825.
And I just say that to clarify, it's, I mean, I'm around town and I just know how this affects us, plus there's something to, with the traffic going in and out of that building, I hope, you know, that'll save some efficiency issues are coming in and out, so.
Yeah, and it'll save the life on the floor inside the building as well.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And the bituminous piece, Andrew, that's a thick enough section for the loaded trucks, or, so it's more than just a parking lot, it's built for the
Yeah,
loads,
it's
for
built
trucks.
for the loading that we'd see. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm not against it. I just want to figure out where the number falls into here.
Well, just to clarify, for today's motion, that's really not in this. This is just for the items that we have listed within the agenda at the 1.4 and a little bit over that.
Correct,
but-
correct. And so we will be coming back when we get some of these quotes back in to, for approval of those quotes, we'll have to do an amendment with rice companies to finalize their fees, which come into it's a percentage of the building cost. So we'll have to come back and amend that agreement as well.
Okay.
But I wanted to give you guys the big picture dollar amount on where we're at with the project so you can make the decision.
Yeah, it will affect the contracts, some of the contracts that would be issued, in this go-around, because obviously we'd have to accept or decline alternates at that time.
What do you plan on running for a contingency budget on this project?
5% at this point,
Okay,
and that's included in the 1.825.
okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
again, just to clarify, for today, we're approving 1.4?
Yes.
And there's 5% contingency in that 1.4, there's
Nope.
not?
Not yet.
Okay,
Nope, the 1.4 is just the total of the
so we can get going.
bids, so that we can get going.
With that, I'd make the motion to approve the 1.4.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Nagel. Is there any discussion? I'll just add, it is listed within, on the bottom of the agenda item, the board allocated up to $1 million American Relief Fund Act dollars for this, and the rest comes out of a capital assets budget, which is built by selling property that we no longer need. So just a big reminder that this project is not requiring new money. It is not built into any levy dollars this year or for next year whatsoever. So this is built with existing dollars and if you want to call it federal aid by ARPA, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
And to add on to that, this is a project that I challenged for the length of it, right? To see if it could work other places, if it could work in different shops, if it could utilize different things, but after a great deal of information and study, I've come to peace with this is the best option for us. But sorry, but not sorry for you to put up with me and all the questions and the challenges that I gave you during this, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kruger, yes.
Yeah, and I'm glad the chair, Commissioner Wright, brought that up. The stars kind of came together. I represent this district, and when we were realigning and looking for alternatives to store, I got an overwhelming number of calls not to move our maintenance shop or to keep a maintenance shop in Glencoe. and are in this district. And I know I'm going to hear, and we've discussed it before, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. We tried our best to work it out with this building, with the government center. It's just really not practical, and the stars kind of align. I'm not going to deny that with the relief plan or the ARPA money. I hate to use the word lucky, but we were able to make that fit to qualify for the ARPA funds. So we're all lucky, and I do feel that at least we're doing the best for the constituents of McLeod County using that money, you know, so I feel good about that.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Any further discussion? Again, our motion is to approve the Glencoe Area Transportation Services Project for a fee of $1,413,126 from the funds from the COVID County Relief Budget and Capital Assets Budget. And there will be more to come, but this is the bulk of the package for today. Any further discussion before we vote? And we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I just have two more items I want to bring to everybody's attention. We're coming up on spring here. Road restrictions are going to start going into effect. Metro area goes into effect on March 10th. Southeast Minnesota goes into effect on March 10th. Southwest Minnesota, I don't have any update yet. With that, I will mention that the gravel roads out there right now are very sloppy. There's not a whole lot we can do until the frost underneath melts off and we can get out there and start blading and things dry out. So just be careful driving on gravel roads right now. They're a little sloppy, slippery. With the snow forecast for later this week, the ruts are probably not going to improve at all. So be careful driving on gravel roads.
Andrew, before you leave, our postings go on then on the blacktops when?
As soon as the southwest zone goes into effect.
And that's what again, or we don't know?
I don't know yet.
So I know we have some contractors trying to get some hauling done before the postings go on, so.
Yep.
Sooner we know, the better.
Yep, as soon as we know, we'll give as much notice as we can. We'll put out a press release and.
Probably won't be too much longer.
I don't
No.
think so either. Yep.
Nope.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Langenfeld.
Good morning.
Morning.
Here to ask you to consider approving permission to move forward with the design and purchase of a 2022 command post vehicle from LDV Custom Vehicles out of Burlington, Wisconsin, at a cost not to exceed $650,000, with excess funds transferred from Trailblazer Transit budget to the designated capital assets budget. The current cost estimate comes in at $647,010. That could change depending on final design and layout. The reason that we're here today is to try to reserve the last 2022 model that they have, which would save us $30,080 compared to what the 2023 model would be. This would reserve the vehicle and allow us to continue with the design and layout of the vehicle. Any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Nagel was first, then we'll get to Doug.
Thank you, Sheriff. This is something that I brought up in some discussion and went through. I appreciate and apologize that it came as quick as it did, but $30,000 is $30,000. So hopefully staff was able to answer the commissioners' questions that they have, and if not, we're here. We can answer them now. It is an expensive piece of equipment, but I think it's a need, and I think we learned that it was a need recently. So I guess we'll just throw it out there. Obviously, you know where I stand on it, and I know I worked with the sheriff a little bit on this, and believe it or not, this is about as good a deal as you're going to get on it.
Yeah, I would add that, as a county, we looked at this in 2020 as well. And I had those numbers in my head when I started this recent go-around with this, and to see that the price went up $240,000 surprised the heck out of me in 3 years. So, as you guys were talking about previous with different costs and the way things are, that's a big increase in 3 years, but that's what the cost is, so.
Commissioner Kruger, yeah.
Yeah, I just, Commissioner Nagel covered part of this, with the $30,000 is a lot of money. So, I mean, I guess not today's world anymore, but, because, all these things are expensive. So I would like to, in consideration of this, I'd like to keep the cost, which is very important, a little bit separate from what the product is and the need of that product. I mean, to go up in 2 years, 240,000 surprised me as well. But would you just comment on the lead time? Because, I mean, we won't get this for nearly 2 years. So, I mean, we're absorbing that as well. And you know, if we wouldn't act now, what are we gonna act on in 2 years, and how much would that cost? So I mean, and then you still don't have the product. Just comment on that, please.
Correct. Right now, they're telling me the estimated lead time is 20 months. Their business is very busy, so they are talking about adding additional shifts, that kind of stuff. So he said it could be a little faster than that, but for our planning, he's telling us 20 months.
And I'll just final what I mean, I go to the fire department meetings, which aren't necessarily the same, but the costs are actually, I mean, it's terrible. But having said that, in this case, our law enforcement, and I've said it before, is very important here for McLeod County anyway, and where we lie out of the metro, 212 expanding. I mean, I guess, in my words, again, I look at it as a necessary evil. So I hate to put it that way, Tim, but it's just the way it is, and I'd like to see our protection safe as well.
Well, to me, it's similar to when we had the discussions with the armored rescue vehicle years ago.
Thank you.
You know, we needed that. It took a long time to get there. I think if people realized how often that vehicle gets deployed, they would be shocked.
And
You
the
know,
things that it's.
and what it's used for and going
paid
to
for
is,
itself. I mean, just-
oh, absolutely. And, you know, we have a vehicle we're requested, not that McLeod County needs to have stuff so other people can utilize it, but we've been requested many times to go into surrounding counties because they don't have it or theirs is further away, you know, that kind of stuff. So, not that should be the priority in McLeod County, but it's one of them things that it gets used way more than people would realize.
Mr. Chair, can I just, you know, and that, there's some people that have contacted me, and I have, in full transparency, I talked to you about this, you know, and when it comes to mutual aid, we are a county. I mean, you know, we're not, to share with another county would not fit in my thinking, but we are actually sharing with, well, Hutchins is a bigger town, and not in the true sense of the word sharing, but we're responding to actions in Hutchinson, Glencoe, or anything that could happen through the county. So you are actually sharing it with the different communities.
Correct.
I'll just add a few thoughts on this. Yes, we do need to bring up that we did think about this very hard in 2020. We did view the existing you know, trailer, if you want to call it that, that we have. It's noted that it's old, it's outdated, and the last time it was used for a very important project, it failed, really is what it comes down to. And so it's speeded up bringing this to the agenda. Just like when we purchased the armored vehicle, it's, you know, the dollar amount, which was hundreds of thousands of dollars for that as well, was very expensive. The disappointing part is how often it needs to come out to protect the public and to protect our law enforcement. And this investment is along the same lines. It's that public protection and to make sure that our law enforcement can do their job properly and safely. So we may not have started the year out with this budgeted in within our capital purchases, but as Commissioner Kruger and I sit on the budget committee, we were able to find a fund balance that we can reallocate so that we can get this piece of equipment ordered. Again, it takes 20 months plus to get it, so investing money today means we still have to wait So this is, I'll be definitely supporting this. It is just part of our job to make sure that our law enforcement has the assets that they need to do their job in and to do it safely for themselves and the public that they're asked to protect, so.
Mr. Chair, I move
Yes.
to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Nagel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Nagel and a second by Commissioner Kruger to consider permission to move forward with the design and purchase of a 2022 chassis command post vehicle at a cost not to exceed $650,000. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, a little while ago, I was probably thinking more that I needed more information to make an informed decision. I wasn't privileged enough to be here when it was researched back in 2020, so that was one of the points, you know, I was running through my head. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm giving our police, our sheriffs, every tool in the shed. And if this gets us there, and what you just stated, you know, about supporting enforcement, I think I'll go along with it. And trust, you know, a previous board, the previous research that was done, and the board we have today. So I think I can go along with it now. I wish maybe I would have had more information. I kind of wish we would have had a chance at it at a workshop to address some of the questions, you know, that I still may have today. But again, I trust the judgment, you know, of a previous board, the research of a previous board, and a previous sheriff and the sheriff's office. So I'll be voting for it today.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
why was it voted down in 2020?
We had never actually put it to a vote. It was on the list of you know, possible expenditures to consider with, if I remember correctly, that was with COVID money at that time. And we decided to invest it in other places and try to get more use out of that trailer. But again, we looked at what happened there, you know, the last time it was out, and maybe we should have replaced it back then. But its time is due, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I can comment on that as well. At the time, I was on the board, and we looked at both vehicles, both the armored vehicle and our command vehicle, and it was hands down a priority of putting the money into the armored vehicle. I mean, our other one wasn't even really running, and I think we were being responsible. It really wasn't. I can't remember it coming to a vote, but by consensus, I think we all considered that the armored vehicle was the most important thing at the time, and it's gotten used way more than we ever anticipated.
And if I remember the pulse of the conversation, it was the armored vehicle was the priority, but we need to address this. Well, we waited 2 years and $240,000 later, and that's what happened. Not that it was a wrong decision in the moment, right? Because that armored vehicle, again, in my opinion, as cliche as it sounds, is paid for itself over and over and over, and I will argue this will too. But it was probably something we should have brought up quicker again, and unfortunately, it took a failure for it to get brought to light.
And it was, I mean, I think you'll agree with me, Commissioner Nagel, that it's all a lot of money. I think we were being responsible, and that was my final comment on this, because I know some are gonna ask, in full transparency, it was put in here. I'm on Trailblazer, and the budget committee, or Paul and I mean, there was some money into, in the Trailblazer budget, and I want to be just as transparent as I can be, that as Trailblazer grew, and we took, Wright County is in with Trailblazer, it's, we've able to run up a surplus of money there that, quite honestly, I didn't catch it right away. So it comes out, it's still taxpayer money, but it comes out to a situation now where it will ease the levy situation, which also helped me to think this is a good use of that money. Again, it's taxpayer money, but it should keep us from a really difference in this particular project affecting the budget, so that helped me as well.
The only thing I'll add too is that this project has been on our radar for quite a few years. It's been part of our 5-year capital outlay plan. However, due to being asked not to increase budgets, that kind of stuff, it just never happened. So it has been on the radar. It's not anything that just suddenly came up because of one incident or anything like that. It just, due to different budget reasonings, it never happened, so.
And one final thing, Mr. Chair, and who's our audience, is the Trailblazer budget is still very strong, so I just want to make that clear.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote on moving forward with this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I'll present for Matt Truska today.
Okay, and next up will be information technology. Our administrator will take that.
Thank you. Matt is handling our streaming of our meetings, so we went over his items. Item A, consider approval of the renewal of annual maintenance and subscription services for Checkpoint Firewall appliances through Fireverse for $73,564 with funds from the information technology budget. This maintenance provides access to support the latest update and security protections available. A second quote was received from SHI for $97,531.
Okay, questions, action item, anyone? All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, I just have a question, that's why I paused. Excuse
Okay,
me.
yeah, go ahead.
So, if you can, and if we have to bring Matt out here, that's fine, but this is, everybody questions, this is like a constant thing, right? So, if you don't mind, just kind of, if you're willing, just go over why it's a constant thing, the continued data protection and things like that we want to make sure we go over.
No problem. And I did ask Matt if he would need to come out, that I could take a pause and go and talk to him if need be. However, this is for the firewall, for the county, which obviously we have a lot of protected health data and other information. We have the responsibility of maintaining, protecting, and sustaining. So these items will always come in front of you because these subscription and annual maintenance fees are necessary in order to maintain the software necessary to complete our responsibilities in protecting information and the county assets.
Thank you.
He also, just so you're aware, Matt just worked on an over 90-page information security policy update. That was through a contract that you had approved, I believe, 2 years ago. And I reviewed the entire policy with Matt over the past couple weeks, and that will be coming in front of you very soon. And that will give you a better understanding if you want to read 89 pages of policy, but it will be a nice reference. Thank you.
No thanks on that, by the way. All right, any further discussion? Okay, the motion will be to consider approving renewal of the annual maintenance and subscription services for Checkpoint Firewall for the cost of $73,564. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B.
Thank you. Consider approval of the state contract quote from SHI for an upgrade to the county's RSA multi-factor authentication system at a cost of $11,106 with funds from the information technology budget. This upgrade moves the county from the standard edition to the enterprise edition and provides software tokens for all licensed users. As requirements for MFA increase, multi-factor authentication, this upgrade allows more options for MFA and a standard MFA experience across the various systems that is needed to project with MFA. This is a budget-neutral upgrade as the county would be spending the same amount with less functionality if it stayed on the standard edition. So all of commissioners, just for an explanation, when you started, you either received a physical tab that probably goes on your keychain with your computer. That's an RSA key fob. That has a code on it that cycles through. You have to enter it if you're accessing the county's data system in a certain way, I have to use that every time I log into my computer when I'm outside of the building. Those need to be upgraded. We knew in March 2023 that we had a majority of those expiring for the ones people are using, including mine. And like it says, it's budget neutral and it's another increase in security and technology.
Okay, questions, anyone? Motion from anyone?
So I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Kruger, second by Nagel on that one. Kind of a tie, so I'll just call it.
Yeah, that's
So, to approve state contract from SHI at the cost of $11,106. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C.
Thank you. Consider approving the statement of work from Syntax Inc. for $940 with funds from the information technology budget. This statement of work covers professional services for our Citrix environment used by public health. I question why the amount of this would need to be on the agenda, and it is because there's a professional service agreement that I would believe probably was reviewed by Ryan's office. And that's why it's in front of you today for an update.
Okay. Motion or questions?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Nagel. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Schmalz to approve a statement of work from Syntax Incorporated at the cost of $940. Any questions at all? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10, Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before you, I have consideration of adopting Resolution 23CB27, seeking the consent to the appointment of Michael Young to be an Assistant County Attorney effective March 7, 2023. So this request is being made in light of upcoming staffing considerations. One Assistant County Attorney's last day in the office is this Friday, March 10th. Additional attorney turnover is anticipated in the upcoming month. So just for an update, the posting for the first position is closed and there's interviews scheduled. But there'll be a vacancy in the office while that interviewing process plays out, even if we do find an appropriate candidate and are able to make an offer. This is anticipated to be a temporary position. Mr. Young has the ability, I mean, you're all familiar with him. He has the ability to come in and help with court coverage, charging, other duties as assigned on day one during this period of transition. The request is, it's aimed at being able to continue to provide a level of legal services to the board, to the county, while also continuing to cover a demanding court calendar and jury trial calendar. We've discussed a few projects today, like the upcoming redetermination of benefits, drainage and things. There's plenty going on, and we want to make sure that while we're in a period of transition, you know, we don't have to pull back on what I believe are critical services. So triaging is always prioritizing. It's always something the offices and I think all departments in the county need to do. But I think we have a resource here that can help bridge a gap. So I'm asking for consent to move forward with this. So,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And Ryan, the availability of Mr. Young, former Attorney Young, does his schedule permit him to be available to you and your staff?
It does. You know, we've talked about what the arrangement looks like. Fortunately, he has flexibility and a willingness to help. And he has a base of knowledge where, I mean, he can get plugged into a various number of roles, and that'll allow me to remain to be available to the board and in other places where I really ought to be able to devote time and attention. So, yeah, I think, you know, here it's just, there's a good opportunity to make use of some good experience. So.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I just say the same thing. I anticipated with a new county attorney that there would be some of these things. They're not surprising, and I have every confidence in our county attorney, so I'd move to approve resolution 23 CB 27.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kruger and a second by Commissioner Luthens to consider adopting Resolution 23 CB 27, consent to the appointment of Michael Young to be an Assistant McLeod County Attorney. Any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to County Administration, we'll begin with review of Commissioner calendars. Mr. Nagel, you ready to go?
Yep, after our last meeting and workshop, during that week, the weather prohibited an in-person conference for the Association of Minnesota Counties, but I did attend a few meetings over Zoom or digitally, and the two that I'll bring up was some broadband discussion that probably I still need some more education on, and then I will focus just a minute or two on the Public Safety Committee meeting, which I serve on, and rural EMS services. The focus was probably a little bit further out than our area regarding staffing, equipment coverage issues, but those are the same things that we see here. And I think all of you and probably some listening have heard me beat that drum for a while, that I'm concerned that that's going to be an issue. So, and it has proven true. So more to follow on that. It's good that other groups with some lobbying interests have picked that up and are paying attention to that. The staffing issues seem to be across the board, whether it's Metro, McLeod County, or further out state. So dealing with that, and then the coverage issues too. I brought up some concerns in our area, and just to make sure that people on the call were aware of those. So with that, I had a parks planning meeting during the blizzard that we went over and talked about some things, what direction, that more to follow as we bring it to the full board and discuss how that looks. And then last thing I'll bring up was I was part of the Public Works Director interviews. Excellent candidates. It made it easy but difficult at the same time. And thanks to the staff for putting that together, and thanks to the candidates for being a part of it.
Okay, begin with the evening of the 21st, McLeod County Extension Committee meeting. We do have a vacancy as our 4-H coordinator has moved on to another position within Extension. And so we're working with, looking forward to fill that very influential role here in McLeod County. We also had some more discussion on continuing to mold that 3-county relationship that we have with Meeker and Wright County. We did have a budget meeting by Zoom. Commissioner Nagel had talked about the parks planning meeting. On the 28th, met with the outreach director for U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar's office. His name was Ben Lean. Met in Hutchinson with several chamber members, as well as chamber representative from Glencoe was there. And he just wanted to have kind of a discussion about topics in the area. A lot of them that were brought up were more state-related, but he tried to steer us more towards the federal issues. I brought up some of the issues with dealing with FEMA funding and how drug out and cumbersome that has become. PILT was a program we talked about, as far as, is that program really fair when we're now seeing farmland, prime farmland valued at $10,000 to $12,000 per acre and beyond, that program is just not funding the absence of the tax base that is lost, as well as ongoing expenses to the land. Other things that were brought up there that again were more state issues were the paid time leave, the payroll tax issues that businesses are really concerned about, what's going on in St. Paul. The daycare shortage was brought up, concerns over renewable energy mandates, housing shortage, those were other topics that were brought up. And again, a line had to be drawn, what is a state versus a federal issue. But it was good to see that there was interest for local voices to be heard, and hopefully all of those that represent Minnesota will spend some time at county, cities, townships, and so forth, and take some of those opinions forwards. And then, let me see, on last week, the second, I believe it was, met with staff and our county attorney on some issues with drainage and buffers, and that's up for today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also, on the 27th, we met as a budget committee and talked about some of the things we did today, plus dust control, some where we can find some money for dust control. That evening, I went to the city center open house for City of Glencoe. Disappointed in the turnout. They had a nice presentation, and there were very, very few people there, and I wish people wouldn't wait. My commentary is, wish they wouldn't wait till the last minute to see what's going on in their community. I then also participated in the interviews on the 28th for our engineer, and two excellent candidates. It was, I don't know where the easy part was, because it was kind of hard for me. They were both very good, and I'm very satisfied with our choice. That afternoon, I had Buffalo Creek Watershed, a number of things going on there. As far as in my district, there's a project by the Buffalo Creek Watershed for an improvement there. That evening, went to the Glencoe Fire and Townships, their annual meeting, and a lot like our meeting today, they're looking at new fire trucks, and I guess there's such a big difference between the need is there and the costs are astronomical, so it really makes it tough to have a intellectual, honest discussion about that, because the costs just are, again, astronomical. On the first, our administrator, well, a number of people from McLeod County went to the Building Foundations Conference in Mankato. I'm going to let our administrator was with, and she took tons of notes, so if when it comes to her turn, I wish she'd comment on that a little bit. It was very good. I learned quite a bit. That's all I can say about that. And that in the evening, or that evening, I went to Plato. City of Plato's looking at some drainage issues in their town. It's preliminary. Ryan Freitag from SWCD was with me and discussed some locations of existing tile there and how to expand their drainage. I also was with Commissioner Wright and myself and Ryan on a meeting about our buffer strips and what we need to do for enforcement, or to make sure we comply with the mandates that we're given. Agenda review, on the second, I had the Southwest ATP, or Transportation, District 8 Transportation meeting, reviewing, and I don't have them right offhand here, but there's a number of projects in McLeod County that are gonna be going on. And yesterday morning I had, or the 6th, was MRC board meeting dealing with some legislative issues. It's Minnesota rural counties, so we're dealing with some legislation going on in the legislature right now, and it's really tough trying to get our voices heard. So I may be going down to testify tomorrow, hoping this weather doesn't go south on us, but that brings us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger, for your report. Like the other commissioners have stated, the 21st, after our last board meeting, we did have a workshop right here at the Government Center. The weather was not very cooperative toward the end of that week for meetings, lots of cancellations, lots of reschedules. Luckily, some of my meetings were designed by Zoom, and some were Zoom by cancellation of in-person meetings. Thursday, the 23rd, I started out the morning with AMC policy, government policy committee meeting where they updated us on where the state legislature's at and AMC's priorities that we've asked them to testify for. And it was a 2-hour meeting, brought us up to date as far as the legislature goes. And then that evening I had a UCAP Joint Powers Board meeting attended by Zoom as well, luckily because of the weather. On Friday the 24th, I started out with what we call a shack meeting. I'll give a little background. With Commissioner Harder, now Representative Harder, in her new role at the state legislature, that moves me up as chairing our CHB now in Meeker, McLeod, Sibley. With that, some extra duty comes, and it seems like one of them that I want to be involved with to do the best job I can is to start attending what they call shack meetings. SHAC meeting stands for a State Community Health Services Advisory Committee. They divide the state up into, I think, 8 regions, and we're in the South Central region. It includes us on the northern end and runs all the way down to Iowa, so a pretty big area. With participation in SHAC, that's our connection with, let's say, the Commissioner of Health at the state level. The meeting had discussions about the new commissioner, which is coming in. Her name is Brooke Cunningham. I don't believe that she's been ratified and approved at state legislature yet, but we think that she will be. She's probably highly qualified in that position. She replaces the retiring Janet Malcolm at the state level. Along with SHAC, and speaking of the region, I collected a little bit of trust in the people that I'm asked to represent. I'm named alternate for our South Central region. And, you know, at first it looks like I shouldn't get involved, but then I think about what Commissioner Kruger has stated many times. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So that's kind of why, you know, I want to stick with it. I want to do the best job I can, and with the help of our fellow public health people, I think, you know, we'll get there together. I didn't have anything else the rest of that week. Brings us to yesterday. I was asked by one of our plow truck drivers, Pat Schomer, to do a ride-along. And this was a week or so ago, and we says, yeah, sure, I'd like to do that as a commissioner. I want to see what the job entails. So, you know, the weather event that we had came through here Monday night, and Pat said, well, to get the full experience, you got to come at 3:30 when I start work. And I says, well, I don't need the full experience. But I did start, I was ready to hop in Pat's truck at about 5:30 in the morning. He was already probably made his first round, and he was starting to hit some of the roads that he hadn't covered yet. So I got a hands-on experience. I will say, you know, there's a lot of things going on in a plow truck. The biggest challenge, I think, Andrew mentioned it, is the soft conditions we have right now to make sure that you're not plowing the shoulders off of the pavement by running your plow too heavy. And we actually did plow County Road 93 while I was in the truck, and there too, it's like the guys got to be very watchful on those soft conditions. But it was a good experience for me. I'm glad I got to do it. I appreciate the invitation by Public Works to do the ride-along, and excited to do that. After 2 hours of riding in that truck, I was ready. I was done. So I needed to get home anyway because, like Commissioner Kruger mentioned, we had an MRC meeting, and Myself, along with Commissioner Luthens and Commissioner Kruger, listened in on that meeting to listen to the legislative challenges that were presented with today at the state legislature. That really brings me to this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, there's not much left. The 22nd, 23rd, during the snowstorms, I attended the AMC Zoom meetings, and I met up with Gruenhagen, Senator Gruenhagen, on one of the days. Wednesday was our planning and zoning meeting on the 28th, on the 1st, excuse me. Then on Thursday, Prime West meeting, did that in person. It's a little drive, I go to Alexandria. It's usually like a 4-hour meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Inch, nothing? Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Commissioner Kruger mentioned, we did go to the Building Foundations workshop in Mankato last Wednesday about making solid land use decisions. The areas of learning on that day were general principles of land use controls, standards for variances and conditional use permits, talking about the hearing process, and then what happens with finding and conclusions from the public hearing. So at that training, it was myself and Commissioner Kruger, our Environmental Services Director, Mark Tuletsky, and then he brought the local planning board as well, and that was very good. It was well received. It was worth the time. And if you're interested in the future, we did just do a survey, and I did note some places around here where we would be interested in having that training, and I would say it would be worth all of your time to attend if you haven't been to it, either for a refresher or for the information. I do have the packet that we received there, if you would like a copy of it, a good reference. And then what I also wanted to note is that we have an accepted offer for our County Engineer and Public Works Director from Andrew Engel, who is our interim County Engineer and Public Works Director through March 25th, and also he was our assistant beforehand. So congratulations to Andrew, and we plan to ask the board to appoint him as our county engineer per statute on March 21st. I've asked Ryan for help with that, so that will come before you at the next meeting. That's all I have.
Okay. Go ahead with your agenda.
Thank you. It's an easy one today. Item A, notification of board workshop following the board meeting on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 at the McLeod County Government Center here at 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. And then item B, notification of the joint workshop hosted by Sibley County today at 12 o'clock p.m., Tuesday, March 7th, and that will be at EJ's Restaurant at 450 Main Avenue East in Gaylord. That's all I have.
Okay, we're at the bottom of our agenda for today. We'll open it up for open forum or press relations. Does anyone wish to approach the board? Okay, then seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to recess.
This will move.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Luthens, a second from Commissioner Schmaltz to recess until our next county board meeting at 9 a.m. Tuesday, March 21st at the McLeod County Government Center. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll start our workshop in a few minutes.